I remember the first time that I attempted to read The Power of Now. I bought the book thinking that it was a self-help book, which I was into at the time, The Power of Now. Thought it had it would tell me how to create success and so forth. And it did not do that. It was not about that. It wasn't self-help. It wasn't self-empowerment. It was something else entirely. And in the intro, he talks about the nature of the book. In fact, he says right in the very beginning, this is not an interesting book. You're not being delivered a whole bunch of new information. And that there would be like these little markings in there that when you see them, perhaps you may want to pause and reflect on what you've just learned. And at that point of the book, I was like, ugh, get me out of here. I don't want anything to do with this. I put it down and walked away. And yet, there was something that pulled me back in. Who knows what it was, but I picked it up again. And for whatever reason, I began reading it. This time I was receptive to it. The message was getting in. And then as I went through the book, something else started to happen where I could tell for sure that I wasn't being educated in some way. It's not like I was learning something, but there was something else. Some sort of message that was popping through. It was like whack-a-mole because it would come up and it would be so delicious and so good. And I'd think, man, I gotta have it. What is it? And then as soon as I grasped for it, it was gone. And then I would read on a few more paragraphs and it would come from over here and I'd try to grab it over here and then it was gone again. But then as the book went on, it started to stabilize and there was a cohesive insight that was starting to emerge. And I realized that this wasn't me taking on a new belief system. This was not me adopting a new philosophy. This was me awakening, which is what the book is about. It's about awakening. And as soon as I started to really bring it into the crosshairs, as soon as it started to become something that I could understand in some way, it became clear how important it was, how crucial it was. And I remember thinking, I have to make my life about this. No matter what it takes, I have to learn this. I need to realize it. I need to live my life this way because the peace and the silence that came through was so glorious that by contrast, nothing else could matter. And that was the beginning of my spiritual journey in earnest. Conscious, my first step into a conscious spiritual journey. So I'm making this for you today because I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this essential insight that came through the book to see if it's still relevant today. How do we feel about the power of now, 20 years later? And are there any traps or pitfalls or potential abuses? Or is there anything wrong about the book? That's what we're going to explore today. And then ideally, what we're going to get, because I'm going to take you, at one point, I'm going to take you through that actual core insight. Of course, I'm not going to take you through the entire book, but I'm going to see if I can get you there. I'm going to see if I can give you that awakening. And then we will also look at the ways that it can be abused so that you can have the corn without the cob, so that you can have the baby without the bathwater. And it can also clear up a lot of misunderstandings. And I say this because if you think in pop culture, especially those of us in spiritual circles, if you've read any spiritual books or gone to a course or a seminar, or like if you're kind of in that world at all, then this idea of being present and being in the moment, being in the now, right? All of these are common parlance. But I mean, they're more like guilt trips than anything else. We chastise ourselves for not being present enough with our kids, or I need to be more in the now, and I'm so stressed out. And I'm going to argue this is not what Mr. Tolle had in mind. So that's what we're doing. My name is Brent, if we've never met before. I'm a coach, a counselor, and I help people move out of stagnation and into flow, out of disempowerment into empowerment. And the third thing, out of chaos and into order. So if that appeals to you, I have a one-on-one practice that you can learn about in the description below. There's a link. You can find out all about it, including how to try out your first session for free. So check that out if you're interested. So a quick note about awakening, just to set the table as we get into this. What is the difference between awakening and, say, a philosophy or a belief system? Because these are not the same things, and they should not be conflated against each other. Awakening is a seeing. It is an experience. It's an experiential event. And a belief system or a philosophy is a mental layer. It's a shifting of the mental contents. It is a shifting of how you perceive what you're looking at, life, the world, the universe, yourself, etc. Furthermore, there is a time and a place for awakening, and there's a time and a place for philosophy. It's not one at the expense of the other. Philosophy is crucial, but it's not to be mistaken for awakening. Now, when it comes to awakening, there are multiple forms of awakening and different categories of awakening. It's not just one thing. Awakening is when you perceive a reality that is larger outside of the one that you're in. Take the metaphor of a chick inside of an eggshell, where a chick it begins inside of an eggshell and then they expand to the capacity of the shell, and then they crack the egg, and then a hole opens in the eggshell, and you can imagine a chick seeing the world outside of the shell. And so what happens in that moment? It's a really interesting moment because it confirms what the chick may have intuitively suspected, which is that there's a reality outside of the shell. And that once you see it, the only thing that matters is getting out of the shell and into that reality. Now, there's also, we're on some level, we're assuming that a chick has a human mind, which of course is a mistake, but continue with me on the metaphor here. Once you become aware of the reality outside of the shell that you're in, on one hand, there's a sense of expansion and excitement to get out into that reality, but then at the very same time, you are leaving your old reality, and that is somewhat traumatic too. It's sort of, it's what gave you your meaning. It was your sense of structure, and now you're realizing it's not reality itself. It was just a little dream that you were in. So that's awakening as a metaphor. So here's an example of a few different types of awakening. One is awakening to the realization that your parents don't know everything. Do you remember having this moment? Have you ever had this moment where you realize, oh wait, my parents are not gods. They're just people. They are not omniscient. They're not omnipotent. And of course, that can be a crushing realization because it kind of puts you out in the cold, so to speak. And yet there's an empowerment quality around it because it means that they're no longer the arbiters of reality. You are. And so now you can expand. Now you move forward on your journey of expansion. Another type of awakening is the awakening to realize that you are the same as someone else. This idea of all is one. It's not an idea, it's a seeing. I explained in a different video on a psilocybin trip. I remember once encountering a stranger in a convenience store, and it was somebody who, it was clear that they were in the midst of a struggle, like a mental health kind of struggle. They were talking to themselves. They were in a little bit of distress. And I remember looking at this individual, just making eye contact with them and seeing like, oh my God, that's me. That's me. And then obviously it wasn't just this one person uniquely. It was like, oh, right, everyone is me. It's all the same consciousness. My consciousness is not personal to me. It's not Brent's own particular consciousness. It's just consciousness. There's no going back. There's no going back to thinking that other people are other in some fundamental way. We're other on the level of whatever, physical appearance, ethnicity, gender, sex, all these things, but obviously not different on that level. And again, once you see it, there's no going back. That's awakening. Could anybody argue with you? Could it be argued with it? Is it a mental position? Do you doubt yourself at all? No, it's just a seeing. Just in the same way where if you taste honey for the first time, it cannot be taken from you, that experience. So the power of now points to a very important awakening. And it's something that you see, that once you see it, there's no going back. And so now we can get into that. I'm really excited about this part. I don't know where this meets you along this journey. For example, if you've never read the book before, or you read it once and you didn't get it, or you're already advanced along this journey. But nevertheless, let's aim for the bullseye. Let's see if we can get you into the consciousness of seeing the present moment outside of time. So here's how this works. A few things just to get out of the way. Is there still a future? Is there still a past? Well, it is still the case that the earth turns and the sun rises and falls from the perspective of someone on earth. And for that reason, there will still be a Tuesday on Tuesday. And there still was last Tuesday. Nobody's taking any of that away from you. That is still real. Now, at the same time, the idea of next Tuesday, from this vantage point, is just an idea. So examine deeply the reality of next Tuesday. Just look from the perspective of right now, what is the being status or the ontological status of next Tuesday? It is real as an idea. It is real in your mind. If you stop imagining it, it's nowhere. It's nowhere to be found. It does not exist in physical space. It's just an idea. Similarly, Eckhart Tolle points to what is a basic understanding that a lot of us have had as children about tomorrow. Notice how tomorrow is just an idea. It is not tomorrow today, nor will it ever be, nor was it ever. It is today, and it will always be today. It is now, and it will always be now. And so through the now proceeds Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, January, February, March, April, etc. All that goes through. In this room, we observe as the sun rises and falls, the seasons come in and out. But all of that happens in the context of the now moment. A mistake that we often think when we think about the now is we imagine the past as this enormous sweeping thing that goes billions of years into the past, and the future as this massive sweeping thing that goes billions of years into the future, from now into the future. And the now is this sort of weird sliver that you can hardly apprehend because it's just so small. This is an incorrect way of conceptualizing the now. Instead, conceptualize the now as the thing that everything happens inside of. Every event. The World War II happened in the now. All the future events will happen in the now. Everything that is going to happen happens in this now. And so you get this picture then of all of these objects being built, created, born. They exist, and then they go away. All different forms. Come and go, come and go, come and go. Bring your attention to this space in which that happens. It's similarly useful, and this is one of Eckhart Tolle's portals into the now, or into this state of presence. Another one is silence. Notice the silence and how my voice and any of the other noises that are around you right now, they are objects against the backdrop of silence. They come out of silence. They're here. My words temporarily obfuscate the silence, and then they go away and the silence returns. But the silence was always there. It's always there. Notice how silence goes untouched by the noises that take place within it. Like the quality of silence is not touched, is not affected by the sounds. It doesn't carry the mark or the story of the sounds that have taken place in it. And in a similar way, the now, like imagine all the sandcastles that were ever built on the beach. The tide comes in, washes them all away, and there's no evidence of them at all. Same with the now. All objects just come and go inside of the now. The now is alone, invulnerable. You are also one of those objects. And you have an identity as an object with your name, your body, your personality, and everything you do. You have that identity. But it's also the case that your deeper identity is that now, is this now. It's the common foundation that all of us are made out of. We're all made out of it. We're all connected to it. We are all outcroppings of it. In the now, there's no boredom. It's so strange because the ego is bored with the now, and that's because the ego feels a little jittery around the now, right? The ego likes to be stimulated. It likes to have things to do. It likes to have problems to work on. It likes to have a sense of narrative, like this is where we're going, this is where it's all going, and that way it justifies the general anxiety that we have around the now moment and everything that's insufficient about it, and so we're addicted to the future. But through this awakening, it becomes clear that there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to get. There's nothing of significance, of the deepest level significance that could happen anywhere. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to anticipate. There's nothing other than this. There's just nothing else. There's nothing else. There's no out there, no experience out there that's just going to be, oh, so amazing that it like justifies this. So when you find this nice seatedness in the now, the sense of hurry drops, the sense of urgency drops, the sense of pain and frustration drops. It's really cool. So let's talk about some of the limitations and pitfalls as promised earlier. Well, again, this is not the same as philosophy, and it's not a replacement for philosophy. And furthermore, the perspective of the now moment can be used as a way of avoiding your responsibilities, as a way of avoiding your life. For example, we could say, oh, well, if it's all just the now and nothing really matters, then there's no point in doing anything. It's a justification for hedonism. It's also a justification, I found, for not setting boundaries and taking proper care of ourselves. We let ourselves be insulted or abused, in situations where we really should better walk away, just get out of there, or stand up for ourselves, depending on the situation. And we don't, because we want to just be in the present moment. Well, that happened yesterday. I just want to be present. But in this case, we're not honoring ourselves. Being conscious of the now is not a replacement for justice. Justice still needs to be served. It's not a replacement for planning for the future, which you should absolutely do. You should save for the future, plan for the future, live as though there will be a future. Because it is the case that you will age, your life will continue for another week or another month, in that you will exist in this now for a certain duration of time. And you should assume and conduct yourself as though it will be a long duration of time, not a short one. And so therefore, keep yourself healthy and well and buckle up your seatbelt and live with integrity. All of that still applies. You should take care of your responsibilities. You know, a lot of us think of, well, we use it as a way to shirk our responsibilities. That is not what Eckhart Tolle is saying, and that's not what I'm saying either. And the way to bring these two together, it's pretty simple. It's to realize that there is a relative truth and an absolute truth. They both exist. Absolute truth pertains to the knowing that all is one, all is well. There's nothing of significance happening. There's nowhere to go. No one's judging you. There's no God to tell you what to do or not to do, and that you're free to do whatever you want within the law of choices and consequences, and that your life is up to you. This is all absolutely true. And on the relative level, it is the case that if you do not take care of your responsibilities, your life will get worse, and your experience of life will get worse. Does it matter if your life gets worse? From an absolute point of view, it does not matter. All is well, all is good, there's no judgment, all is equal, all experiences are equal, all experiences are holy, everything is deserving of love. And yet from a relative standpoint, your life can get worse if you let it. And it's bad. It's bad if you let your life get worse. It took me a long time to realize this because I was stuck in the power of now consciousness for a long time. And I was unwilling to engage with the world. I remember this. I remember having disdain for the world. I remember being unwilling to learn about, say, history or politics because it all struck me as just squabbling over nothing. And now I endeavor to be deeper in the world than ever before. And this is a rite of passage that comes as a result of awakening. When you become awake to absolute truth, to the permeating goodness and holiness and divinity of everything, everything, everything. When you see it, what is there left to do? What is there left to think? What's the point of being biased in any particular direction at all, including the bias to continue life? It's all holy either way. And there's a temptation to just drift toward the lowest place that the river of life brings you. But even this awakening is only partial. This is only partially wise. The deeper wisdom is to take this awakening and ground it into relative life. After all, why did we go through the trouble of embodied existence? It's a lot of trouble. It's a lot of work to survive childhood, adolescence, to become an adult, to survive as long as you have done as an adult. It's a lot of work. And here you are now. So if you do exist, well, then it's no good to exist in this half-hearted way. You may as well dig in. It took me a long time to realize this. Dig in and care and have an opinion, have a point of view about things. Participate, become partial. And then in so doing, you take what you've come to see and you ground it into the world. You anchor it in like a lightning rod. You bring that quality into the world, not in some preachy, pedantic, I'm better than you kind of way, just through the essence of your being, through the quality of your silence, through the feeling that people get from you as they talk to you. You live as beautifully as you possibly can. And then what's amazing is that as you go through life, you can really care about things. You can try really hard towards things, and you can experience frustration and sadness and disappointment. But these experiences are not threatening at all. In fact, they're all totally welcome. Grief, loss, bitterness, pain. You can be oriented towards these things where on a conventional level they suck. And yet on this deeper absolute level, they're completely welcomed in. And there's nothing wrong with them. And there's no assumption that something has gone wrong. And in that way, you are in deep flow with the universe. And that peace follows you everywhere. That's the value of the power of now. So, the power of now, 20 years later, it's not the end. This is the final thing to say. Please, by the way, hit like if you've enjoyed this. Leave a comment letting me know if you've also experienced the power of now and this awakening that we're talking about, and give me your version of it. I would love to hear. What was the final thing? Is that every awakening at that moment feels like everything. It feels like you've reached the realization. In other words, awakening, everyone feels like enlightenment. Enlightenment being like that final realization, the capstone, you know. When in reality, awakening goes on forever. And so the idea here is not to be distracted by the seeming completion of that awakening and to keep moving onward, even beyond the power of now. There are further awakenings to go. So don't get hung up on any single one.